If I can have everybody's attention here in the media center, it's my pleasure to announce the next lineup here on stage. We're joined now by Wood Brothers President Eddie Wood, Chief Operating Officer Lynn Wood, and Director of Business Development John Wood. And Eddie, this week, a strong outpouring of support and love we've seen from NASCAR fans for Wood Brothers Racing. And I understand you'd love to say something to those fans today.
Yeah, I mean, it's really overwhelming, the amount of response that we got, you know, on social media and phone calls and just emails and things of all our fans, you know, supporting us. And that really makes you feel good, because you never really know what's out there until, you know, something triggers something for those guys to speak up, and they've really been supporting us, and I'd like to thank all of them. It's really amazing.
We'll open the floor up for questions. If you have a question, we will get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start with Jenna and over to Bob.
Jennifer, AP, I guess for any of you, last year was a tough year with rain, and that cost you some races. I'm wondering, you get this deal and you get Ryan Blaney and you're really excited and you're going to go full-time racing again, and then the charter thing happens and now you're going to live on eggshells every week again. I mean, does it feel like a mixed blessing?
I think with our performance this past year, qualifying in these races shouldn't be an issue, as long as we perform like we know we can. I think the rain-out situation, you know, last year we missed those 3. If it had been using the qualifying speeds, we were in the top 10 all 3 races we missed. So that's changed for next year, or this year now. So I don't foresee that as being a problem. Now, if the car don't crank or he goes out and he hits a wall or something, then we've got a problem. And, you know, we've talked about in the past, as long as it's not, if it's a performance-related issue, like we can't run fast enough, that's when we see we've got a problem. We can't. It's hard to overcome something like that, but if you're fast enough every week, it shouldn't be an issue.
And I think that's the encouraging part about the way that, with the new structure, not only were things done differently for the charter cars, but the open cars as well. And it instead of, well, whatever they used to base it on, it's more on performance now. And the fastest 4 cars make the race, the fastest 4 in practice, if it's, you know, rained out, it's not, there's no shenanigans anymore. It's black and white.
It's a lot better, the changes they made, that NASCAR made this year for qualifying. Some of those rules that we'd been going by, you know, there was a reason they were like that, and it goes way back, you know, to the older days that not many of you probably remember. Some of you do. Al Pierce would. But anyway, the changes that NASCAR made are definitely a positive, because it's really more about performance, and that's what qualifying should be. So yeah, we're liking what the changes.
We're going to go next to Bob, then to Jordan, then to Jim, and then to Kenny.
I guess this is probably for Eddie, Bob Pocker, ESPN. I mean, since October, everybody's kind of had heard it'd be 36 charters, 40 car fields, and you guys likely would be kind of left out with that charter. How hard did you guys try to get a charter, or did things really change in your view in the last couple of weeks? And also, it's our understanding that non-charter teams are getting significantly less money per race than the charter teams. Did you guys have to go back to Ford or anybody and, you know, and ask for more money for the year?
I'll answer your last question first, and I'll let probably John answer the first one. But no, I mean, the way the thing is structured, if you do what you're supposed to do and what you're capable of, it'll all work out. And, you know, we've been racing a long, long time, and actually Lynn brought it up this morning last year, and ever since we went part-time, we've not been a part of any of the plans. Like the car, you finish it. You know the numbers. I don't.
Yeah, we haven't been part of the Plan 1 or Plan 1C or the Winter Circle Plan or the Champion Owner Plan or eligible for any season-ending bonuses. So that's not a huge issue to us. When we went part-time, limited schedule, we had to be more efficient. And that's when we looked at everything from motels to tire bills, things like that, on where we were going to race. End up, we raced where we thought we had the best performance. So that shouldn't be an issue either.
And then, as it would pertain to the charter situation and what we knew about it, it's probably simpler just to give a timeline. I guess, what would it have been? Probably around this time last year, the owners group invited us to be a part of their discussions. The first time that we went to one of those meetings was 600 weekend, which would have been in May.
May, yeah.
So it was at that point when we sort of saw the proposed framework and the direction that they were wanting to go in. It was fairly close to what it turned out being. That being said, we kind of knew right then that if it went down that road, it would certainly change things for us. But we didn't really, that was it. So fast forward a few more months to the fall Charlotte weekend. There was it was the NASCAR had an owners meeting in September, I believe it was. And that's when they formally said, this is what we're going to do. And at that point, we knew, okay, rather than, worry about it, we need to put our heads together and figure out how we can make this better for ourselves. It's kind of hard to explain. And I mean, you can't really blame anybody for the way it went. I mean, everybody wants what's best for themselves. We're just in a different situation. Being on a part-time schedule, you can't look back and say, this is what we should have done. You can't really argue with anybody because, again, what benefits one doesn't necessarily benefit the others. So we just, where we are.
Yeah, and that being said, the owners group that, helped put all this together, had we been racing full-time, from 08 to now, we'd been right in the middle of it because we'd been one of them, but we just happened to be in a different spot. And I guess we created our own spot because, in 08 when, the economy was kind of, on the downslide and everyone was struggling to have, find sponsorship, we had like three choices. We could have did what we did, which was race part-time, but when we show up, we're competitive. We spend enough money to, to get all the right stuff, the right people, the right driver, and that actually turned into a Daytona 500 win. The other choice we would have had would have been to do a start and park or race a little bit now, race as best you can, and not really, it's not really fair to your sponsors. Ford Motor Company has stood behind us so long, it's not fair to them, or we could have quit. So looking back, if you told me, okay, you could go back 6 years and if you want to run all the races and then you would have a charter, would you swap? No, I probably wouldn't. I mean, we want to race doing a model that fit us at the time, and you can't take that away. I mean, that's one of the biggest wins in our career, certainly my career, and so I mean, it's all going to work out. Like I said, we've talked to our sponsors and stuff, and everybody's, it's going to be okay. Trust me.
And to add to that, my grandpa didn't start this team in 1950 to make a pile of money. It was a completely different environment then, and it was all about racing. That's it, and that's kind of been ingrained in these two, and you can't really change that business model if what you do is race, and you're not a businessman first, then you can only make the best decisions you can make, and those being have the fastest cars, whatever it takes to have the best performance, not limp through on some kind of hope of something down the road where you can cash in.
I would say it would have been an embarrassment to our family, our uncles and our dad, if we'd have just been like a show up and take a check.
Yep.
We didn't. We tried to perform every time we showed up. It didn't always work out that way, but that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Go to our next question at Jordan, and then we'll come up to Jim.
Jordan Bianchi, SBNation.com. This is for any of you. Last few years, didn't have the sponsorship. You're running part-time. You finally get that sponsorship. You're coming back full-time. Then they announce this charter system. Do you feel like maybe like the goalposts are moving a little bit?
I don't really understand your question.
The whole world's changing. We know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
there you
everything
are.
now is on your.
I couldn't
You can
find
read
it.
on your phone.
No, I mean, it just seems like
I don't have a notepad. I've got my.
it
iPad.
just seems like there's one hurdle after another. You kind of
Oh,
get thrown
yeah, I
at
see
you.
what you mean. You know, when you've raced as long as we have, just about time you think you got one thing figured out, something else happens, and you got to worry about that. And then, it's been like that forever. You know, whether it's making races or whether your car is fast enough. I mean, in years past, when you come to Daytona, you start working on your cars in September and October for Daytona, and you worry the entire winter if you're going to be fast. The longest 2 minutes in racing is first practice, and it'll happen tomorrow. When you go get on top of your hauler and you wait for that thing to go by, it takes about 2 minutes to make your first couple of laps. So that's the longest time in racing, because then you know whether you're fast or not. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of things kind of piling up, but it's almost like those crocodiles or alligators. You see it, the kids at the circus, you take a hammer and hit one of them in the head and it goes down, two pop up. It's kind of like that, but we've grown up like that. That's a
Whack-a-mole or something like that.
Yeah, whack-a-mole, I think is what it is.
You just keep plugging.
You just keep going, you know.
But what you don't do is change your I keep saying business model. I don't know if it would be that or not, but you don't become what you shouldn't, and you don't embarrass yourself. I mean, that's the simplest way of putting it.
Yeah, we've come too far to change our
Approach.
racing personality. Maybe that's the word he's looking for.
Okay, we'll go next to Jim, and then we'll go to Kenny, and then over to Claire.
Jim Mutter, motorsport.com. Eddie or whoever wants to answer, just because the Wood brothers don't have a charter this season, does that mean you may never have one? Or would you be open, and could there be a day when you decide it's worth trying to purchase one or something, or are you content to follow this direction for the time being?
This whole charter thing is probably going to take a life of its own, and no one knows, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, what it's going to look like. Certainly, we would like to work our way into one. You know, whether it's, it's going to work out really well for a lot of people, a lot of teams, and it may not work out quite as well for some others. But who knows? You know, it's going to take a life of its own, and things are going to happen nobody even thought of. It's just like everything else. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pathways for us to get a charter later, and not now, but later on, to work your way into one, because there's only 36 of them, and you're not, you know, they won't be issuing more, so you have to get an existing one. But there's ways to do that. Excuse me, but you know, for right now, the biggest thing we're, you know, concerned about is just, you know, we've got everything in place to run this year, and we're really happy about that, and just, you know, concentrating on having fast cars because we've got to qualify every week.
I think Ryan Blaney said it pretty good on Twitter. You know, like, what's next for the Wood Brothers? We're going to go race, starting with this one, Daytona 500. We can win that. That would make number 6 for us. That's the goal right now.
And the new, I call it new, the way that qualifying, the procedure, the way that it's changed, it follows what I was saying earlier about the fastest 4 cars. It's encouraging that there are 2 ways to make it, 2 of those spots being the fastest 2 cars. That gives you an incentive to build a fast car and not just have a $5 motor and hope you make it because everybody wrecks. I mean,
yeah, everything, you know, whether you're an open car or your charter car, is performance based, which in the end, the race fan wins because you're going to have better racing because everybody's trying harder, driving harder, all that's, everybody tries as hard as they can, but there's another level of it when pride and money is on the line, and that's kind of what they've done. And so, like I said, it's, and to all our fans, we're going to be okay. Just promise you we're going to be okay.
Okay, we're going to go next to Kenny, then to Claire, and then to Mike, and then we'll head over to that side of the room to Al.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. For any of you guys that want to handle this one, given your all's history in the sport, how did you find out that you would not be receiving a charter? Did anyone tell you, or did you not know until the list came out? And also, what did your father think when you all explained to him the situation?
He was upset, and I think that's probably because the three of us had been involved in the whole thing along the way and watching it evolve, and I think it was just a surprise. Once he sort of digested the whole thing and realized that it was for the betterment of the sport, he's okay with it. And that says a lot about his character, that it's about what makes NASCAR better as long as it doesn't push us out. And I mean, it was tough to see, but I mean, I think it's okay now. I do.
Yeah, he was, like I said, and when this whole thing kind of started, it was just, Leanne and myself and John, and we talked about it all the time, riding in a car. Everywhere you go, you talk about it, 24 hours a day. And we didn't really involve anyone else because it changed so much. Every day it was something you would hear that was different, and we just didn't want to get anyone else all spooled up, in the deal. And once we explained, where we are now with the new, especially the new qualifying rules, because that rain-out stuff just tore him up. So, there's better plans in place now, thanks to NASCAR on that. And once he understood the positives that are there, he's fine. So
I think it was, the hard part for him was that there was this big announcement, confetti flying, and we're kind of not a part of it. And maybe we should have explained it beforehand, because it would have made a little bit more sense and wouldn't have been such a surprise and catch him off guard.
But yeah, he's fine. He's coming down here tomorrow. That'll be his 70th.
This will be Daddy's 70th year for Speed Weeks in Daytona. Because he said something about, it's his 70th Daytona 500. No, there's only been like 57 or 8 of them. So Only. Yeah. But he came down here in 1947 to watch his hero, Curtis Turner, race on the sand. And then Daddy started racing in 1953 on the sand itself.
And to answer your question about when did we find out,
I mean, we was pretty sure.
Yeah,
because we knew what was, we were, told how it was playing out. We were pretty sure.
It started out likely going to happen in May, and gonna happen in September, and for absolutely sure going to happen on Tuesday when the announcement was.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had an idea, but
I mean, we didn't expect. We wasn't sitting there waiting like you're going to win the lottery or something. You're going to get a charter. We knew the rules that was set forth to for you to have one. About racing the last 2.5, 3 years. We knew all that, so we hadn't done that, so we knew. I mean, it was, like I said, we're going to be okay.
Go next to Claire, then to Mike, and then over to Al.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Listening to the discussion on this, most folks seem to get that there had to be a line in the sand somewhere, and yet folks felt big time for the heart of the Wood Brothers' long history. Although not included in the charter system, do you guys feel for the good of the sport, even though you're not included, that this is for the good of the sport? And could you, Eddie or Len, seen this coming, not 3 years ago, but back when you all started or in the golden era?
Well, a few years ago, I'm going to say in the 90s, this thing was brought up then, about doing it. And you had a lot of guys that came into the sport thinking that, like guys that weren't racers. There were people that thought, this is going to turn into something, like the NFL or something like that, and, I better get in there. And it never really happened. So, yeah, I mean, as many people as been working on this thing and as many smart people, and generally when it's all, you get that many smart people in a room and let them argue it out and figure out what they need to do, it usually comes out okay. So,
and if this change makes the sport better, of course we're happy about that. I mean, that still will trickle down no matter what position you're in, as long as you're still racing. You don't want to get pushed out, but I don't really see that as, again, if you're there to race, you're not going to get pushed out. It's to make the overall sport better. And about to allude to what you said about the line drawn in the sand. I saw Burton's piece the other night about it. I guess it might have been Tuesday night, whenever the announcement was. And at first, it kind of bothered me because it's like, come on, like, have some sympathy here. But then he's exactly right. You can't make everybody happy, and we can't go back and change anything that we've done. You just can't. You can't look at it like that. Hindsight's always 20/20. And to the critics that say, that this is a rule's a rule, and it is. It absolutely is. And I think that we're sitting up here just to convey that we're okay with that, and that there's no problem.
Right. Yeah. That and the other piece of that is, if you come to race every week, whether you're a charter, an open car, whatever, in the end, that's what this is all about, is making racing better to where, it gets to where it's number one in the world. And, I'm like I said, we're just okay. I don't know how to say it any different. I think we're going to be fine.
Go to Mike.
Mike Bagley, Motor Racing Network, Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio. You mentioned that you went to the owners' meeting and you were part of the RTA. What is the status of the Wood Brothers' relationship with the RTA in the wake of the announcement this week?
Once everything was finalized, and we knew for sure that our objectives were not really aligned with theirs, out of respect for them, and out of not really respect for us, but just for our sake, we distanced ourselves from them and resigned from the RTA. But again, that's just they're two totally different ideas, two totally different approaches, and ultimately we have to look after what's best for us.
Yeah, they like I said, I think we were putting them in a bad spot because we were different. We were a square peg trying to be put in a round hole, and it just wasn't working. I mean, it just couldn't work. So I think we were putting those guys in a bad spot because we've known, all the owners all our life, and so that was just the best solution, because it, like I said, we just want to be a part of it and go race.
Go to Al, to Lewis, and then back to Mike Embry.
Yeah, Al Pearson, Auto Week. We get that you guys understand. We get that you agree it's good for the sport. We understand that you're not going to complain. We understand all of that happy face stuff. But deep down inside, you got to be thinking, this sucks.
I told
How
you
in the
not to ask
world
me
does
to-
Kaufman get 2 charters and we don't get any? I mean, really, deep down inside, isn't there a part of you that are saying, we got screwed?
What was it? If we got one of these questions, it was just don't answer it? Was that what it was?
Al, I thought you remembered where the cookie drawer was.
I know.
You know what? You guys know what Richard Petty said to him The first race he ever went to. Tell that story.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me put it this way.
He said, boy, you don't know much about racing, do you?
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
1969. He's at Dover.
Don't tell that story.
I'm going to tell it because you put me on the spot. Yeah, he's at Dover, 1969. Richard Petty wins a race. He crawls out of his car. Okay, everybody in this room knows you crawl out of a race car. You don't open a door. He raised his hand, asked Richard Petty.
Mr.
Petty, why did you crawl out the window? Why didn't you just open the door? And Mr. Petty said, you don't know much about racing, do you, boy?
Boy, you don't know much, do you? But seriously.
Your questions have come a long way since then.
Yeah, well.
They're better.
Well, let's just put it this way. Y'all are disappointed.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
We are. We are disappointed.
Okay.
But it gets back to what I said. The model we used to stay racing in 2009 caused this not to happen. But I wouldn't turn around and switch it for that win with Trevor here if you gave me 2 charters. It's just, that's how much winning a race means. You just
The race.
The race. It's this race.
It wasn't just a race, it was the race.
This race. This race is above all others. I don't care whether it's Indy, Le Mans, I don't care what it is. This race is above all others.
Lewis?
Louis Frank of Reuters. It may be premature, but if at some time it becomes possible to buy a charter, considering the finance, would you consider selling part of the team or something else to raise the money, the millions of dollars to finance a charter?
Yeah, I'm sure
that would be foreseeable. I mean, we're still owned by our family and have been the whole time we've been racing.
Guinness World Record, longest sport, longest family-owned operated sport. Plug that.
That would be a difficult decision to have to make. But like I say, I mean, like right now, if we want to make a decision, we don't have a boardroom we have to go to. Typically, it would be at dinner or lunch at Mama's house. We sit down, we talk about it. And we don't have to spend 2 months thinking about it.
Yeah, there's no vote. It's just let's go do it. And, that being said, I'm sure we will do whatever is necessary to continue to race. If that's what it leads to, partnering up with an investor or partnering up with a team that has a charter or something like that, whatever it takes to continue racing. I want some more Daytona 500s.
We'll go to Mike, and then we'll finish up with Jenna.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Eddie, there have been a lot of fans really fired up about this, I guess almost threatening to burn Stewart or something. Is that part of it surprise you, how in-depth all that's been?
Yeah, I mean, it's they're very very supportive, and if you wanted to go to war, I think our fans would be the ones you want behind you, because they're they're very passionate about about our race team. We've got fans that are older than you and I, certainly, and then we've got a big range of fans that I didn't really realize was there. I knew all the people that were Pearson fans in the 70s and 80s and all that. I knew they were still there, but it seems like from some of the responses we got on Twitter and Facebook and just emails and things, they're young people. Also, it's like the whole range, and that really made me happy. Because then I guess you got kids of fans and grandkids of fans. Because once you're, in our world, once you're a Ford fan, you're there for life. So that's kind of the way it is.
I think we were very fortunate in 2011 to be able to go back to the red and white paint scheme with a gold 21 on it, and then go out and win the biggest race that year. And that pulled a lot of the old timers back into the sport, I think. And then having Trevor Bayne as a young kid, that pulled new people, new fans for us, young fans.
Yeah, I think it's where the young fans come from, was when, the 500 victory, and then it kind of connected the older generation fans to the younger ones. which, you know, I think it's what, you know, everyone needs. Everybody, all of us need that. And but again, I'd just like to thank our fans because, man, they really put it out there.
And then, like, the day of the announcement, I guess it was Tuesday, I saw a comment on Twitter. It was from some reporter, and he says, 2 things I've learned. There's a big change or something, and the other thing, people pay too much attention to this Wood Brothers situation. And it's crazy to say that because we're not asking for that. You know, the people that you're complaining to are the people that are doing the talking. And, you know, they're the ones that have chosen to feel the way they feel, and that's just more encouragement. That's more determination to change your underdog status to, you know, something better. And I mean, everybody likes an underdog, and at least everybody but this reporter, I guess.
We'll finish up with Jenna.
Did you guys have an opportunity to buy one of Rob's charters or get in the bidding for that? And if so, what's the going rate for a charter?
No, we knew pretty much from, you know, just the same. We heard the same thing you guys did, you know, and we were, you know, we were in some meetings and discussions with, you know, both sides of it all, and it was pretty evident that the 2 that Rob had, you know, were going to go to the 19 and probably the 41. Just so we couldn't compete with that. So we really never went there. But you know, it was and the price, I have no idea. You know, I don't know what they're going for. And,
you couldn't outbid.
yeah, I didn't think I could outbid Gene Haas and Joe Gibbs. No. No.
Yeah, we got most of our information from you guys.
Okay, well, Eddie, Len, John, really appreciate you coming in and take the time. And who knows, we may see you again before this Speed Weeks is all said and done.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sunday evening after next, right here.
Good luck to you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.